I'm pleased to be joined on tonight's show, tonight being February 4th. Tomorrow is February 5th, primary election day for presidential candidates here in the state of New Jersey. And on this week's show, while we're taping on Monday, so those of you watching it later in the week, some of the information will be outdated, but it'll also be helpful for future elections in June and November. I'm pleased to be joined by the county clerk, Joanne Rajapi. Joanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to be here.
I'm glad you can make it. Now, first of all, before we get into the presidential election, which is tomorrow, tell us what the county clerk does.
The county clerk does lots of things. We do recording of property transactions, deeds, and mortgages. We also take care of notary publics, passport processing, and by the way, there's a new travel document available as of today. It is called a pass card, which is good for border crossings within the United States, or adjacent to the United States. And of course, we do elections. We share those functions with the Board of Elections. What I actually do is I design the election ballot that's put in the machine. Every voter, I send them a sample ballot, which is reflective of that machine ballot. And then, of course, I do absentees, ballots. I prepare them. I send them out. And then on election night, I actually tabulate the results.
Joanne, you mentioned this new thing that's in effect before we get into the elections. So if you drive into Canada and drive back, right, you need this, or does a passport work?
Absolutely. You must, at the very least, have this new document called a pass card. It became effective on February 1st. If you don't have a pass card, then absolutely you can use your passport. It is for driving to Canada or Mexico or sea travel to Bermuda and the Caribbean. It is not for air travel.
Air travel even to Canada or
Correct.
the Caribbean?
You cannot use it for air travel.
Anywhere,
right,
outside the country?
Right, and you cannot even use it for air travel to Canada, correct. You must have a passport. These are new Homeland Security regulations. Interestingly, the State Department has made application forms available for this new pass card, urging people to get it if they want it, but they will not be available for several months yet.
So what happens if you're going to the Bahamas or Canada in February?
I suggest you get a passport. And in addition, let me just say this, because we had a mayor of our county this occurred to. Before these regulations...
It wasn't me. I'm not leaving
anywhere.
No,
it wasn't you, Mayor. You never go anywhere. You're a good hometown boy. The mayor was leaving before these regulations came into effect, where he only needed his birth certificate. And that's what the regs said. He went to Continental Airlines at Newark Airport, and they said, sorry, that's the State Department regs. We have our own. So we're urging people that might take cruise ships to the islands to be sure to check with them. A pass card may not be enough. They might require a passport.
Now, if you have a passport, that is good enough.
A passport has worldwide acceptance everywhere. It is probably the greatest proof of citizenship you can have, yes.
Okay, so you wouldn't need a passport and a pass card if you had a passport?
No, you can have both, but you don't need a pass card if you have a passport.
Now, this being the night before election, Joanne,
yes,
one of the things your office gets very actively involved in is absentee ballots.
Yes, we do.
Has there been a large request for absentee ballots for a primary in February? Because we've never done this before in the state of New Jersey.
We have no experience with a February primary. Our office has been urging people to apply for absentees only because of questionable and unpredictable weather early in February. We hope it's going to be a good day tomorrow. Usually in a presidential election, we get between 10 and 15,000 applications. To date, we only have a little over 3,000, of which I'm disappointed. So I'm just concerned that the weather holds, so that, you know, people that generally will not go out in inclement weather have a problem either walking or it's icy. We want them to go out.
It's interesting because, like last week's primary in Florida for the Republicans and the Democrats also competed, there was something like over 400,000 early voters.
Right.
And that's when you're talking 2 million voters or
But
something.
remember, Florida is used to early voting. In New Jersey, we just had a change in the absentee voting law last year, which said you no longer need a reason to vote absentee. Where you had to have a check off that you were ill or you were working or going to school, you no longer need that. Anyone can vote absentee now. So this is relatively a new occurrence for New Jersey. Hopefully, more people will make use of it. And I am disappointed that only about 3,500 people, did that. New Jersey is important, as are the other 22 states that are going to have an election tomorrow. I mean, we actually are nominating potential presidential candidates.
So the candidates, so the concern is if seniors, who
And others.
Anybody with a problem,
Right.
if the weather is inclement in any way, shape, or form, or even extremely cold,
Right.
then it's possible
Right.
that they won't come out.
Right, exactly. My mom is 97 and she gets around, but I insisted she do an absentee. I said, we don't know what the weather's going to be like.
97, God bless her.
Thank you. The polls, by the way, are open tomorrow from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So from 6 to 8. And if anyone has a question about where to vote, number one, they should have received a sample ballot that clearly states on the outside where they vote. But if they do have a question, they can contact my office or the Board of Elections office.
Now, one of the questions I think a lot of people probably, do absentee ballots always get counted?
They do.
Regardless
no
of
matter
how
what.
close the election is?
Doesn't matter. It is a genuine vote. Now, the only time it would not get counted, Mayor, and you bring up a good point, is because of a new federal law. First-time voters are required now to give some proof of identity. That could be a copy of their driver's license or some other. If they vote absentee without it, they must give that to the Board of Elections within 24 hours or their ballot will not be opened and counted.
So if you're a first-time voter and you vote absentee, you
And
have
you-
to send in a copy of your voter registration form, or you have
Not
a
your
copy
voter-
of your license or something?
Yes, some ID, some ID that says who
Is that
you
in
are.
there? I don't vote absentee, so it's a little tough for me. Is that in the instructions? I mean, how would
I believe it is because they're asking for either the last four digits of your social security number as proof or some other proof. Yes, it is on the new forms.
So you'd have to send that in when you send in your
Yes.
absentee ballot, unless
And
you.
some people don't fill it out. They
Right.
leave it blank. In which case, they're normally contacted by the Board of Elections and said, you forgot this information. Please provide it.
And if they do provide it, then their vote would count.
Exactly.
If they didn't provide it,
Their ballot is held aside by the Board of Elections for 24 hours, which gives them an opportunity to fax it over to them or send it in.
okay.
Or
But
bring
there
it.
will be an effort by the Board of Elections to reach out.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.